Hi guys, and welcome to another episode of Japan no Toyzu. And this one is for a special someone who asked me to do this months ago, and I finally got around and got it all finished and threw it up. And that person is Mr. Gogdog from the WTF and TFW podcast, and you can find his internet site around. And there's a lovely picture of him. Not that one. That's Gog. The other one's just a stuffed animal, believe it or not. So yes, Star Saber. We will be looking at his Generation 1 counterpart, since I've already looked at this guy here. So let's get on with the video, and I hope you enjoy it all. So we start this video with not Star Saber himself, but instead his Brainmaster, which apparently the wiki has named Yuki no Brain, or the Brain of Courage. And for its size, the articulation on this guy isn't too bad. I mean, he has a little swivel in his arm here, which you can move up and down, and obviously in his other arm, and you can also put him in a little sitting pose. So, you know, considering his size and gimmick, it's not too bad in all consideration. And he actually has some quite nice little bits of detailing on him, like these popped out little shin guards, I think, and the actual feet have been moulded quite nicely as well. Yes, the screws are quite visible, but on the other side, it's not too bad. I perhaps should have set up this shot better to hide the screws, but they're there to show you how they hold the legs together. Looking at his chest and arms, we now see a lot of foreshadowing of what is to come for this toy and, I guess, for this review. A lot of nice moulded detail. One could complain that the crotch isn't amazing, but then again, this entire red block for his chest is hiding a big face, FYI, if you didn't know. The only problem I would pull is the hands, on the basis that it looks like he's wearing big mittens with one giant thumb and no distinguishing fingers, but again, considering the size, it's not all that bad. Looking at his back piece now, I'm going to have to repeat myself and say, again, very nicely detailed. A nice reminder, or perhaps nod, not really sure, to the Godmasters or to the Power Masters, depending on your preference. I don't really know what it's meant to be. I would assume it's meant to be the hilt of a sword, with the handle-shaped bit at the bottom and the weird, strange pattern at the top. Perhaps it's a hilt of a sword. Not really sure. Even so, very nice that they did it. It adds quite a bit of nice detail to this tiny figure. Finally, we move on to the head, and it's a really nicely done head. It has three colours to it, as you can see. It has the outer grey shell, the nicely detailed inner grey face, and also a blue visor, which is really good. I give them total props for doing that, because they didn't have to get that extra mile, but they did. That's really all we have to say for this little guy. And even though I say that, I think we need some kind of size comparison. So here is a Micromaster. Don't ask me his name because I can't remember, but he is kind of small. And then we put in a Legends figure behind him just to give a more precise scale. So as you can tell, this guy is very, very small. But of course, those of you who know Star Saber knows that this little guy is not alone, and he can call in his Trans-Tector. So here is the Trans-Tector, and it's a hella red jet, as you can tell, and the stickers actually do quite a nice job of breaking up its super readiness, but I'm not going to stick around and talk about its detail too much, because we've got other things to do. One really nice little play feature that they added is you can open up this cockpit here, and if you get Yuki no Brain and get him into this sit-in pose, you can actually shove him into the jet and have him flying it around, which is a really cool little feature that they added. And he actually sits in there very snugly, yes, inside the jet. He can't move his arms at all, and I would imagine that would be a very uncomfortable place to sit. So if we just pop him out, and pop him back in with his arms in the air, he can have a whale of a time now. Now children, when a Brainmaster and a Trans-Tector love each other very, very much, they close their eyes and wish as hard as they can, and they can transform and combine into an awesome robot. Now let's have a look at Saber's articulation. He has big ratchety joints in his shoulders, which are quite nice, but they're quite hard. If we zoom in here, you can probably see the kind of ratchety joint it has. It's big and clicky, so you can only get it in certain positions, but it's effective. You can move the arms out, and if you're not careful, you can push them back in again, which kind of sucks. The other one does the same. And I suppose he technically has a wrist swivel, but that's mainly due to the transformation, and his legs bend so he can sit down. And that's really about it. Well, I suppose he's got these joints here, but that's for something else entirely. I mean, it's not desperately useful. Problem is, he is a little bit wobbly because of these joints, so he can move about a little bit, but apart from that, he's not too bad. Looking at the detail on the legs, it's not desperately impressive. It's mainly taken up by other things, such as the wheels for the jet mode and the ratchet joints. I mean, you've got little feet, but they have a lot of screws in them. So unfortunately, it's not very impressive to look at. Looking at his chest now, it's okay. It's made up mainly of shapes, and there's no actual details that's been put onto it for the most part. But it does what it has to do. The arms are again okay. They've at least had a bit of detail put onto them, even though they don't have the articulation at the elbow. But there you go, whatever. It looks quite nice. Finally, we move on to the head, and it's a great bigger version of Yuki no Brain's head, with the detail much more obvious for people to see. It looks really good. I like it quite a lot. It's a very characterful face. And of course, what's a Transformer without some accessories? And for Saber, we have this, the nose cone. And we have this, which is called the Saber Laser Rifle. I know it's kind of a silly name, but, you know, go with it. So if we take the nose cone of Saber, you can see he's got that nice landing gear there. And of course this big yellow peg. And if we get Saber, and we get his arm in the right position, and if this is kind, goes in first time, he can hold, no, he can hold it like that. It is a tad wobbly, as you can see, but it's not really meant to go there, to be honest. We're meant to put it into one of these pegs on either side of his shoulder, and you can shove it in there. I think that's about as far as it goes. And you have a nice kind of shield for his arm. It's actually quite a big shield, and it looks quite neat, if you ask me. And then, of course, you give him the laser rifle. And there you go. He's all tooled up and ready to kill some Destron peeps. Although he doesn't have much articulation, when he's all tooled up, he can look quite nice on a shelf, standing still, holding his gun. But of course, we know that's not the end of Star Saber, so let's bring in the V-Star. And here we have the V-Star, and it it's big. I'll give it that. It's big, and it doesn't really look like anything though on its own. Most of the detail on the V-Star is generally these stickers, and as you can tell, mine has seen better days. And of course, because he's made up of so much white, he has yellowed a little bit due to age. So if you are interested in a Star Saber, make sure you check this out. The only big problem that you can pull for the V-Star is the fact that you can kind of see Star Saber's head on the top there. Yes, that is indeed his helmet. And face. I'll show you in a moment. And as we bring in Saber here, we can do a little bit of combination work and make him stand on top of the V-Star. Although it's not desperately secure, at least I haven't found a way, because I didn't look at the instructions while I did this. The best thing I found to do is the two small kind of grooves cut into the back of the V-Star, and you can kind of finagle the wings of the back of Saber's legs into these. I assume that's what they're there for, but that just could be me jumping to conclusions, so, you know, do not take it as gospel. Believe it or not, the V-Star can still do some more stuff, so let's take it away and bring it back in its base mode. Okay, so here is the base mode, and it's, once again, not a desperately good base mode, but I do personally think it is better than, say, Star Convoy's base mode, which is really, really bad. But even if it's not a very good base mode, at least it's still another play feature that kids or yourself can have a lot of fun with, I suppose, if you stretch your imagination a little bit. So now let's take away that god-awful base mode, because we've seen enough of it, and we'll also get Saber back into his Trans-Tector mode for the real show to begin. Okay, so what we need to do here is get the Trans-Tector, fold the back fins down into this position at this angle, believe it or not, fold the front wings up to this position, and the Trans-Tector's transformation part is complete. Next, what you got to do is slide it into position and not force it down in, but instead you have to lift it up, and a little bit of wiggle will secure it into place. Now you've got Star Saber's crazy space intergalactic jet giant robo combo thingy plane here, and it's kind of neat. One of the cool little features what we can do now that he's in this mode is you can get this Saber laser rifle, and believe it or not, there's actually a small hole in the back there, so you can connect it there, so it's not a loose little piece floating around, which I think is quite good, because loose bits always kind of suck and get lost. This can carry everything it holds. And we still, believe it or not, have the opening cockpit, so we can get the Brainmaster, Yuki no Brain, and put him in if we want. But I don't want to, so I'm not gonna. Okay, it's time for the main event, people. Time to battle up! Looking at the overall look for Star Saber's legs, to me it really does scream that it is a big super robot, such as Goldran and alike. They're big and chunky, and to me anyway, it really does look like his legs have been armored up, like they've got a huge plating of armor going around them. Now, okay, there's not a huge amount of actual molded detail on, but the actual shape and the overall aesthetic to the legs is quite effective, I would say. Now, its chest design is very similar to Yuki no Brain's chest, as I mentioned earlier on in the video. However, all of the detail is bigger, better, has more stickers and paint detail, and lovely chrome added as well. On closer inspection, you'll notice that the hands have actually got some nice detail on them as well, with the actual thumb molded in, and a knuckle guard also has been put in there as well. And of course, when you look at the bottom side of the fist, you'll see the cuts that have been made to show his fingers. But the top part of the design, the part that you're looking at here, is surprisingly nice. I actually dig it. There's nothing really new to add about the head because, well, nothing has been added to it yet. However, he now has a big saber on his back, which is cool. Plus, he has these two giant Autobot insignias on his shoulders. But believe it or not, that's not all, because we need to now battle up. Now we're going to talk about my biggest gripe with this toy, and it's to do with this faceplate here. I use this bit of blue tack here to keep the face from popping out quite so much. The reason it does this is because there's a spring on the inside of the helmet, which is part of the transformation gimmick, and the spring is far too tight. I realize it's not a big problem here, but I don't want to customize my G1 Transformers, so I have to resort to this blue tack. It's kind of irritating, but I can get past it. Now, for a big robot, Star Saber's articulation ain't amazing. He has big ratchety joints in his shoulder here. He has elbow joints, which do a little bit of bending, but not a huge amount. He also has, surprisingly, a wrist swivel, which is really stiff. But obviously he's got these in both of his hands. We'll move that back down there. He has no head articulation, and his legs can only move out to the side. Not very far though, depending on how far you move his arms. But I gotta say, for the size and the age of the toy, it's got some nice articulation, which is kind of surprising. And of course, what is the greatest swordsman in the universe without his sword? So let's give him the hilt of his sword. And of course, with the hilt in hand and the sword in the back here, it's time for him to blade up. And of course, he doesn't just come with that, it comes with his saber laser rifle as well, so you can give him that and he's fully tooled up to shoot fools and cut them up, which is how I like to roll as well. Now, the only real issues that I have with Star Saber are that his faceplate needs the bit of blue tack and the sword hilt is still extremely wobbly. But despite these small setbacks, I think the G1 Star Saber is a really cool toy, or at least what I dig. Giant Japanese robots, I always think they're neat. And if you can get past his big price point and get this guy, I don't think you'll be disappointed, because if you buy him, you probably love him as much as I do. Oh, and just as a size comparison, here's the Brainmaster Star Saber. So he is quite big compared to that guy, and here is a Micromaster. So Yuki no Brain is that size, and then you have what he finally transforms into, and yeah, it's quite a big change here. So thank you guys for watching this video. I hope you enjoyed it all, and I guess I will see you next time for something else.
Master, I have failed you. I beg your forgiveness.
You come back here in failure yet again, but the generous master has decided to give you one last chance. If you fail this time, I shall become involved, personally.